Today is Sunday, December 6th. I've got 5 very easy but very important things you can do right now to make your garden successful. Stick with me and we'll go through them. Prior proper planning promotes productive performance. It's December 6th. Can you believe we have bees? That takes us to our very first item. What do you want to plant? Why do you want to plant it? Do you want to plant flowers to attract bees or butterflies? Do you want to plant your favorite vegetable? Do you want to plant trees for fruit? That is the first thing that you have to decide. It seems very simple, but it's very, very important. One of the elements you need to know when you're deciding what to plant is when your first frost date is and when your last frost date is. Obviously, you do not want to plant oranges where it's going to freeze. The second thing you need to decide is what size of garden you're going to have. You don't want to get too overwhelmed. I've been doing this for a very long time, and this has grown year after year. Now, an example, this cold frame, which is 2 hay bales by 2 hay bales all the way around, is about an 8 by 8. If you had a raised bed or a small area like this, that would feed 2 people throughout the summer. You'd have enough vegetable crops to eat, preserve just a little bit, and the work wouldn't be too difficult. So step 1, what do you want to plant? Step 2, how big do you want to plant? Now once you decide that, the third thing you have to decide is location, and this is very important. No matter where you decide to plant, you're going to want to have at least 6 hours of direct sunlight. More is better. Sometimes you're limited to what you have. My space is between 2 green zones. I got to keep these pruned back, but I do have the luxury of having some shade. The center of the garden gets well over 6 hours of sun every day. You also need to take into consideration with your location, how far away from the house is it? You don't want to have to take a trek out to the garden just to get a tomato. You also need to know where your water source is. Okay, you've decided what you want to plant. You decided how big you want to plant. You decided where you're going to plant. You've got your water source all figured out. Now the fourth, and this is probably one of the most important parts, is the soil. You got to assume the soil is not going to be good enough. And for those of you that's seen my entire documentary, you know I'm pretty much based around soil. That's what these big piles are for. I'm amending them. Now Ruth Stout, she just used hay and she covered stuff. James Piglione, he used the Back to Eden. He started off with wood chips, although he's sort of evolving. Now Charles Dowling in England, he uses straight compost. I'm using a combination of all of those. I got a mixture of leaves, I got a mixture of grass, hay, wood chips. Got a mixture of all of it, and we just keep spreading it out. The whole point is we want to let that microbial life underneath the ground improve the soil. It seems to have the best results. Now you can rototill and you can add commercial fertilizers. There's a lot easier and a lot safer way to amend your soil. And if you use organic matter just on top, whether it's Ruth Stout with hay, whether it's James with wood chips, whether it's Charles with compost, whether it's me with a mixture of all of it, the results seem to be pretty good with all those methods. And there's no real rule book. So number 4 is pretty important. Plan to amend your soil. Now the 5th thing you want to take into consideration is when to plant. Today is December 6th. You obviously would not want to put tomatoes in the ground. They will not make it. It'd be a waste of time. What you want to plant and when you want to plant them kind of go together. You don't want to have the perfect plants and plant them in the wrong time, and you don't want to plant stuff you don't actually want to grow. Both of those are a waste of time. And those are the 5 things you really need to map out to have a successful garden. They're pretty simple, but they're very important. Now, if you stuck with me this long, I've got a bonus tip for you. You want to make gardening easy. How great would it be never to have to weed your garden again? With my deep mulch, it seems like I was able to find an easier way to garden. There's always going to be a little work in the garden, but my final tip is you want to make your gardening enjoyable. Do it because you like it. Do it because it tastes good. Do it because the butterflies are pretty. If you find any of this helpful, hit the subscribe button and hit the like button. Now you can do this, and these 7 items seem very, very simple, but they're very important. You do have to have your soil right. You do have to have enough sun. You do have to have access to water. You need to know when to plant your seeds. You need to know what seeds you want to plant. All of these things are very, very important. So start planting now. The shortest day of the year is right around the corner. Spring is on its way. Remember, proper planting promotes productive performance. If you want to know more about the weed-free deep mulch, click that button right there. Come on, let's plant. Let's go plant garden.